of this, okay? So I get to start this? Okay, here I go. Unless you want to do it.
Go!
The buzzer took the monkey for a ride in the air. The monkey thought that everything was on the square. Buzzer tried to throw the monkey off his back. The monkey grabbed his neck, he said, now listen, Jack. Straighten up and fly right here. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and fly right. Shoot down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Ain't no use in dying. 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 Straighten up and you gotta fly right. Shoot down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Down, you are choking me. Release your hold and I will set you free. He said,
Always so touching, it sounds like a lie.
straighten up and fly. Straighten up and fly. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Cool it, Papa. Don't be up to your Mr. Lande, Miss Marguerite, I think we should give the drummer some. Listen. Okay. I have been humbled this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Marguerite Juenemann. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Cool down. Don't you blow your top. No. I don't just plan on blowing my top. No. Cool. I don't know. Since it's a metaphor, here's the way I think of it. Baby, I have your little neck in my hand. And if you drop it, I'm gonna take you down with me. Get me to the ground just like you promised me. I will do something to it. Honey, don't you make me sleep. I just needed to release that. It's okay. More room out than in. Now, Marguerite, tell us how you feel about it.
She just turned this show into real music right there.
That was fun. Oh.
It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my guest, Marguerite Juenemann. Juenemann, that's correct, right?
Yeah.
I did it. I actually pronounced your name right. All right. I'm impressed with myself, Marguerite.
I think you should be.
Uh,
All those silent letters, you know.
yeah, really. Well, this is fun to. This is really fun to interview you here. Let's see, just getting my stuff a little more together here. And now I am ready to talk. So I was telling Marguerite, this is a very casual hang. It's fun. See, I just to be casual, I wore my, what do you call this shirt again? The flannel. Yeah, this is my most casual.
I showered and put on a shirt.
Oh.
I was looking like that beforehand. And I'm like, no, better not. But hey, it's very casual, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So you're up north, right? Are you in Seattle? Is that where you are?
No, I'm just a little bit south of Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, I probably knew that, but forgot it. And how long have you been there?
Well, my folks moved out here in 73. I left in 83, and I spent time back east in Europe, various places until about 2000, and then I came back here. My folks were getting older, and I thought I should probably be close, which was a good thing because I took them right to their last days. So caretaking them, and I wouldn't have traded it off. I mean, there was a lot of things going on at the time, and people are like, "What, are you crazy? You're gonna take yourself off of the scene right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." So I did.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets about any of it. I don't think I missed too much except catching up with the cyber world. Good golly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, you know, Marguerite, you're getting ready to do a fourth CD, and you know it's not going to be done the way the other three were because they were quite a while ago. You know, you had cover art, you had thank yous inside, you had credits, and you had some sort of testimony from someone. Mark Murphy wrote the last one for me, so that's been
A while.
yeah, but it's been a while. But you know, that stuff doesn't even matter anymore because it seems like all you do is record, you put it up on some format that is downloadable, and people get what, a 30-second hit of what tunes you have, and they decide which ones they want to buy. So it's not even about buying an album anymore. You know, I can't tell you how much stuff I learned from reading the back of album covers, but that doesn't seem to have too much value these days, I guess.
Yeah, it's very different. It's for those of us who remember those days, I think it's very, we remember it with affection, you know, and I'm not sure if the people, I mean, there supposedly are a lot of people buying records now. I don't know if I don't know if that's their experience, you know. For us, it was, I mean, and the albums were not like incredibly expensive, you know, they were reasonable or cheap even, you know, but you could have that big old cover in your hand, and there was just a lot of beautiful havingness, you know, and the sound of the quality of the sound, I think, was probably more organic and got into your body and ears in a little different way, you know.
Yeah, it was about the vibration that got put onto the tape, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And it wasn't about a sound bite.
yeah,
You know, I find them to be a little too crispy for me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really, really, it's definitely an interesting uh, career line, history line, you know, future history line, everything. It's very interesting. I mean, you just go with it and you do it. Um, you know, you always talk about with people like us, we always talk about why are we doing it? You know, you know, get into these conversations. And for young people too. Why do you in fact I just had a conversation with a student who actually went away kind of depressed.
Oh no.
I'm laughing, but it was because she, you know, we just had a very comfortable talk, but, you know, I said, well, you're not going to make money from this. And she was like, what? And I said, you know, because she was thinking she was going to survive off of it. I'm like, no, I don't, no, you're not going to, unless you're somebody famous, you know, who has like this upward trending career and stuff, or you just happen to get in with the right people, but for the broad general group of us, we're not doing it to make money. I mean, it's nice to make money, but that's not why we're doing it, you know. We're doing it, I mean, why are you doing it?
I'm doing it for the love of collaboration. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, the biggest thing for me is with all of the stops pulled out, I'm able to record with bass and face for this next recording, about a half dozen tunes. I've got a piano, bass, and myself on a couple of other tunes, got a full band on 4 tunes, you know, and these were things that I either seriously deranged or wrote lyrics to that didn't really have a place to be inside of one item, basically, because they were all very different things. So on one hand, the new way of recording and all of that is okay.
Yeah,
You
because you
know,
can bring in things like that. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And I tried my hand at arrange. Well, I arrange for 4-part vocals. I do some kind of wacky things, but tried getting them put into a catalog for high school and college level ensembles because, as an adjudicator for enough of these things, I find that some of the music isn't really bringing forward what is the vocal jazz experience at all.
yeah,
And then I find that enough of them aren't even using old recording or old music. Duke Ellington. I mean, I'm still studying Duke. I'm still studying Duke and Monk and Oliver Nelson and all, but they're writing their own things so they can override all the publishing issues. There's apparently 2 houses that have a monopoly on every single bit of it, and they yay and nay at their will instead of you have this project and you'd like simply to have permission to get it published. Used to be easier. It's not that way anymore.
yeah, yeah.
And so I tried my hand at it. I got 4 tunes together. I have about 25 of them. And I got various, you should have had 12 voices on this. Well, sorry. I only have 4. Well, then you get in the studio and record them 3-4 times at a time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the first conversation I had with these guys wasn't about any of that. It was about, we just need to know what the chart sounds like. So that's what I did. And this, the voices we're all solo singers and everybody's on their agenda. And, it wasn't really about trying to make a group sound so much as I continued through the project, I'm noticing. So I can understand to some degree, but I decided to bag it all if it's going to come with so much issue. Well, we don't think these are strong enough for us to try and I'm like, it's really hard to go wrong with a Duke Ellington tune or a Rodgers and Hart or any of that. Well, nobody's using that stuff anymore. And I'm like, well, no wonder these groups sound like they do, which is almost no real jazz. Okay?
Yeah, I'm with you actually. I'm not a big fan of what's come up with vocal groups, generally speaking. Every now and then there's something brilliant
Oh, yeah.
that sneaks through. Did you ever know Steve Zagri in Michigan?
The name is familiar, but I'm not placing.
He was the head of either the music or the vocal department at one of the universities there. He passed away, but he had a knack for either he arranged the pieces himself, but picking the voices. I mean, when you saw them perform, it was totally mind blowing. I mean, they were great singers. They worked their asses off. The arrangements were powerful. It was the old music, actually. But that was pretty brilliant. That's just one thing that comes to mind. But generally speaking, I'm not the who do you wow, and then,
Me
you know
neither.
the pop hits. Oh yes, the whole thing. It's like But my feeling is I agree with you about, especially, and it's getting more and more for me, dealing with the bureaucracy in various areas of life, not just music, but it's just, I think if I have a broiling point, that's where it is in life. But I think it's through friends. I think it's like word of mouth. You could easily reach out and, it could reach out to people who are working in the spots where they would want that music and try it, reach for it, whatever.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going. I mean, I've got a collaboration with Jocelyn and Elena Cameron Young coming up in April, and it's a lot of improvisation. Elena is from Italy. She's pretty heavily accented, so she makes a point to say, "Please don't have me sing too many words." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I managed to pull a few things together that I'd had already arranged, and I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we've got a basic set list. What we do with it is a whole nother thing. It's not about rehearsing to death. I hate rehearsing. I would rather be in the woodshed working on my parts that I'm going to add when the collaboration meets. And so they're all of the same headspace there. It's like, look, so it's going to be much less of a group sound as Rare Silk was a group sound. Okay, I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I think that probably turned me off so bad to rehearsing. I mean, it was a 7-day-a-week issue for hours and hours. And wait, I'm doing the S here, and I'm like, oh God, whatever happened to let's get together and see what we sound like making our own parts.
Yeah.
It never happened in that group.
Yeah.
But I've worked with
Excuse me for a second.
Yeah.
For those of you listening who may not know this, Marguerite was one of the founding members, right, of Rare Silk. And Rare Silk, it was active, in the 70s?
The very end of the 70s into the mid 80s.
Okay, and very good group, even though Marguerite didn't like rehearsing so much, but it was a great group, wonderful, kind of leading the way at the time of vocal jazz, right?
In a way, I mean, there was still Manhattan Transfer. There was still what's the name of that group? Peter Eldridge.
Moss? No,
New York Voices.
Oh, New York Voices, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're up against those kinds of skills,
Yeah.
Rare Silk didn't have those skills. We were a group.
Yeah.
Without individual skills, it was not anywhere near what Manhattan Transfer or.
You still had a name.
Oh yeah, because it was a different sound. I mean, when we first started out, I was a horn player, and I listened to horn sections, and that's where I put the vocal harmonies. That's how I made the vocal harmonies. They were close in, a lot of minor seconds, and of course the group term for that was crunchy. So make some of those crunchy chords, Marguerite. So, and then Todd came in and he brought a new dynamic to it, which was good because we could filter down a little farther in the harmonic structure, because I was the low end. And then at points, it was just a little too low to really get that nice depth of the chord sound, that you would get with a lower voice. Yeah. And that became an awful lot of fun for a while. And then it got kind of crazy and, too commercial for me. I'm just not there. It's not about jumping through hoops for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was this one incident where this guy heard my first CD, got in touch with me and said, "We really want you to come in and talk with us about doing some recording." So by the time the fourth meet was over, I wasn't doing anything that they heard on the record. They had me being a blues singer, and I said, they're going to look at my name and know I'm a white woman, and that's not where I'm going. And what attracted you was not what you're trying to get me to do.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went, okay, bye. And I never really pursued much beyond that because it's, you can read a lot of things. Joni Mitchell is very outspoken about the industry. And I love her take on it. To me, she's the goddess of all kinds of things artistic. And she's not afraid to say what she says and what she means. And it's true. I mean, there's a lot of people who are so very hungry that they jump at the chance for anything that will get them from point A to point B. And I'm just not that way. It's like, you got to earn that stuff. It's the way I feel about it. And I'm earning. I'm still earning. That's the way I feel about it.
I want to tell you a few hellos. I don't know if you know Joyce Glasgow. She's in Seattle. She's a fan of jazz, and she's saying hi. And that was some wild scatting, she said. My friend here, Roland Askerons, he thought that video was kick-ass, and he loved Rare Silk. L.M. Booker, she digs you. Nora Paradiso agrees with you about family, and Joyce agreed. Sherry Adams, she loved Rare Silk, worth the work. And yeah, so anyway, just a few comments for you too. So, so these days, when did your parents pass?
Well, it'll be 2 years. My dad was the last one. He passed in March 2022. Mom passed in January 2019 or 2014.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just me and dad for the duration, and it was a good thing. I mean, you don't really, a lot of people don't really hang out with their parents, get them to know them in those ages. They kind of have this other idea about them. I don't think my parents always knew me. They were my best friends. They were the people who had me take my first breath, and I trusted them from the get-go. And I always would sound them on all kinds of things, everything, even things people would, you talk to your parents about that stuff? And I'm like, yeah, because they have an opinion that matters to me.
Yeah.
They traveled with me into a lot of places. The last place they traveled was to the Thelonious Monk competition in D.C. that they held for people who were over 30. It was the only one they ever did. And they've never done one since. And I made it into the semifinals. I didn't make it into the finals. And as far as I was concerned, I won, because the people that came up to me afterward and were Joe Williams, she's from here. I'm drawing blanks in my later days here on names. Joe Williams.
Diane Reeves, or
Yes, Diane Reeves, and sax player with Miles. He just passed about a year ago. Anyway,
yeah,
they came up to me and went blah, 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 about all this stuff, because there were there were 2 out of the 4 people that made it into the finals who couldn't even direct their band because they couldn't read a chart. Yeah. I did a Thelonious Monk tune. Piano player turns around to me and says, "This ain't a singer song." I said, "Well, this is a monk competition, ain't it?" And he wouldn't play. I mean, none of the bass and drums would not play on any of my tunes. They had their head down. They weren't following any of us at all, except some people.
well, that was a poor producer of the event, wasn't it?
Well, it was T. Monk, man. And I wrote, and I said, "Your father's turning over in his grave right now," because I read a lot of Monk. I read a lot about Monk. I read a couple of books about him. I read, other people's takes on him, and he was so flippin' unique.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he came up through the bebop era, but he was not bebop. He was in a class by himself.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of creative spark,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to remember. I think it was probably Mingus who went to see this band a couple of times at the same place. And he leans over this one night to the bass player. He says, "I heard you play that last night." And I'm like, "Oh, these guys are brutal, man. I guess I better really get on the ball and, forget about the canned licks, forget about all that stuff. That's good stuff to learn from.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already been 2 other Sarah Vaughns, but you go back to listen to the original, because that is where the real
Yeah.
creative spark was.
Right.
Okay? It wasn't
That's
about what
where
you
it
sound
comes
like. And
from.
Yeah, and the industry has a way of trying to shape you into
Of course.
what you
We were
need.
talking about Eva, what's her name? Eva, the singer who did Autumn Leaves, but then she did rock and roll. She died
Yeah,
early.
yeah, I know who you mean. She's passed on.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
talking about her the other day with somebody, and they didn't know that much about her. They didn't know that the record labels didn't know what to do with her, so didn't do anything. You know, she was a really great artist, and she could do anything.
Eva
Um,
Cassidy.
Eva Cassidy, right? Thank you, Sherry, too. So Sherry Adams, by the way, she almost moved to Boulder because of Rare Silk. She went to school with Dale Robbins, who
Oh,
played,
okay.
yeah. And also Lynn Colbert Jones is here, and she's sending her best.
Hi, Lynn.
I'm going to send you. I don't know if you sing these songs, but I'm doing a project right now. I'm finishing it. It's a no net, and we have two monk tunes, and I wrote lyrics to it very quickly, and it was great. The project I wrote a Schofield lyric, and anyway, I wrote Evidence, which I really like the lyrics a lot, and Baya. So I'm going to send you those lyrics, for fun.
Very cool. Thank you. I do both of those tunes.
Oh, cool.
I only do them instrumentally, just
Yeah,
because I didn't have a lyric.
yeah, they're so much fun. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Monk, I remember in LA, it probably was about, oh gosh, it was a while ago. It was maybe almost 20 years, well, 15 years ago, maybe. That was when people were really on recording, but I remember because of this one club called the Blue Whale where a lot of people played. But that was a time that Monk was really being recorded a lot. A lot of people were doing Monk tunes. I thought it was really interesting, that it should kind of find its way through a lot of people, you know what I mean? At the same time.
Well, it was interesting, but to me, it showed being looking for something else, something different. Monk, if I get to the point where I'm tired of listening to jazz, which happens at times. I mean, I listen to gospel, I've listened to all kinds of other things, but I'll put on Monk, and I never get tired of listening to Monk. You can hear him think. You can hear him starting to understand or starting to figure where is he going to go next, instead of having all this canned
Well,
stuff.
also, what I love is space. So his use of
Yes.
space is, you know, pristine, wonderful. It's just great. And that to me, that's why what you're saying is true because the space is just such a beautiful, magnificent part of what he does.
Yes. Yes. And he knows the right 16th note to come in on, in the middle of the group of, 30 of them. He'll hit the right one in the right place. And
Evidence is example of that.
okay, Wayne Shorter. That was the
Oh,
horn player I couldn't think of who was hosting on that. He was one of the hosts for that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they all had something to say that should have been said, I suppose. I don't know. I was kind of beside myself because it wasn't like I was looking to win that thing or anything, but it was like, are you kidding me? You got people up there who can't even read a chart in the finals?
Yeah,
Please. You're on an agenda. You want a look. And
yeah,
I don't have that look, do I? I
yeah.
still don't have the look. I'm
Yeah.
too old, and I'm a pink girl. I'm not white. I'm pink. You're not white either. You're nicely pink. You got those little yes. So I mean, those kinds of things do make a difference. They are looking for certain of things, and if you fit the bill, you're a winner. And if you don't fit the bill, and that is, I finally decided I don't care about fitting a bill. I'm going to do what kind of music I think about a lot, which is improvisation. Leonard Bernstein is one of my heroes. Jessie Norman, listening to her make some crossover things, just good Lord Almighty. Just a lot of stuff does not have to be in a little box in order to be effective, in order to be creative or even inspirational.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have to be.
Were you friends with Jay Clayton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the queen of that, I mean, she gave me a lot of heart about that kind of stuff, just observing her, she just
Yes.
going through life, She really did that with a lot of, respect and, yeah, just she was like a queen in that area.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, she's specialized to some degree,
Uh-huh.
but I play some of her stuff. She would do some of the most beautiful things on old standard material, and I'd play her for some of my students. They're like, "Oh, I never heard of her." It's like, well, so does that mean that she can't have an effect on you? So it's like that. And Betty Carter, same thing, man.
Yeah.
I
God, I
love
was listening to, speaking of people coming from a school, I was listening to, what is her name? Jamela. Uh, she's kind of an up and coming Jamila. Somebody out there help me. She's very smart. She's a young, relatively young singer who's been working on her craft lots and lots, and I admire her. But I was listening to this one cut of her the other day, and wow, it was straight off of Betty Carter. I mean, straight off of Betty Carter. Amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, originality is it's kind of not coveted much anymore. And those of us who are actually in our own little bag,
yeah,
which don't sound like, a remake of anybody.
it
Um,
it was Jasmia Horn. Thank you,
oh,
Joyce. Yeah, very talented person, extremely.
new name to me.
Yeah, very, very good. You'd admire her work ethic, and she's working. She really works has done so for a long time.
No, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good. But
I
yeah,
mean, it's kind of hard to be. I mean, we're all a product of what we listened to and how we came up, and there's different kind of acceptance to that. The more you go on, the more you perform and record. It's just like, yeah, I don't know where that came from. That's like a, sometimes I come out with a folk thing. I mean, folk was a very small part of my history, but it was in there apparently.
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
You know, my performance years to begin with it was all folk. It was the early 70s here in Colorado. I mean, you saw people like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Elton John and some of the Turtles and some of the Beach Boys because there were recording studios up in the mountains.
Oh.
And yeah, we got to record at Caribou, which was an institution at the time,
Uh-huh.
and you would see all these people running around, in town, who were up in the studio, just, up above Boulder, up in Netherland, and, standing in line, to get a coffee, and here's Stephen Stills behind you. You're like, what? So, it was big. It was big here. I remember attending a jam down at the Oxford Hotel in town here. It had its own history, and there's this guy behind me, and he's writing, and I'm like, just listening to him, and I'm like, what the heck? This guy sounds pretty darn good. Yeah, well, it was Tom Waits. And he was doing the jams with us, just all of us who were just nobodies, because apparently at the time he was a nobody as well, just trying to get there. So, I mean, it's got a little history to it. There was a club, sadly, is closed at this point. COVID took care of an awful lot that had so much history. people coming into town. I mean, Basie Band, Ellington Band. I mean, all those, and the players, the cats, you know, that would sidle off and go find a jam session somewhere. They'd always end up at this club called El Chapultepec. Serious, serious heritage. And there's no place like that anymore. There's all these shishi places now, you know. Before you can even get a seat, you have to drop $30 at the door. And then when you're at a seat, you have a minimum, and you're listening to somebody who's only going to be playing for an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. And it's like, well, there's no hang. There's no place to be where you can walk in and know you're going to hear some good music without any other issues, because the bottom line is the music. You know, not, you know, selling a martini for $15 or $20, and you know that there's 33 shots in a bottle, and if you're going to charge 14 for and a shot in each, that's a week's salary. You know? But that's their game anymore. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be that desire to have a hang anymore, you know.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of a hang, let's listen to you and Bruce Forman.
Ooh, nice.
I'm sure that was a hang.
Yeah, well, it was a hang, believe me. We had a great time. We really did.
Yeah, because
musically.
Bruce Forman, he's a cool guy, man.
Very cool. A little bit of a potty mouth, but
oh, definitely. But you know, that's why we
love him for every 6'7" of him.
Yeah.
I like you, you're nice. Seems like I've known you for years, but we met just an hour ago. I'd never guessed we'd be such friends, and I like you a lot, so don't You're nice, you're very much me. How very nice we would be, but we wouldn't have all that we have. Let's never know and be just friends. 'Cause I like you a lot, so don't go. Take me home and stay for a while with me. And if you're good, and quite notorious cup of Costa Rican coffee. 'Cause I like you. Yes, I like you. Take me home and stay for a while. frosted butt cake. Cause I like you. Yes, I like you. Been there? Haven't you been there?
That was great. Very nice. Beautiful.
Well, you know, what was really funny about that gig, you see that big light behind the players.
Yeah.
Bruce and I put together a really nice program a couple days before. Chose these really nice tunes. I did some arranging and this and that, and that light blanked out anything that was written on those charts. He leans over to me and he says,
Jeez.
Marguerite, we're on tune 4 right now. He says, and I can't read any of these charts.
Oh.
Let's pull out that list of standards.
Oh.
So agreeable standards, you know, things that we agreed on. I didn't care what keys. I knew the tunes well enough, and you know.
Yeah.
So we did the rest of the night
Oh.
unrehearsed, and just they kept us on for a half hour over the time we were supposed to quit. There was a band waiting, but oh well, when you have a happy room, you have a happy room, you know. But we had so much fun, and Russell Malone was there. He stopped in to say hey, and he sat down, and I'm like, oh, uh-oh. And he stayed beyond the end. He sat down and talked with me about music, about all kinds of things. But there are other recordings of this same program, other tunes, and you could hear him in his really low, yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. You know, so I had to keep that on my phone. I just had to keep it. We had so much fun. It was so much fun. You know, Bruce and I had never played together before. I sat in on a couple of things, but that was it. But we hit it off so well musically that it's going to be done again. In fact, he's coming back out in September. We're going to be back. We're going to be in the studio, so that'll be a lot of fun.
That's nice. Yeah, you sounded great together. Your voice is beautiful. Your intonation, your tone, your range is great. Are you a voice technician? Do you practice? Do you study? What about that?
I'm a horn player. Okay, I grew up playing the clarinet, saxophone, and the oboe, playing in the orchestra, the band, and the dance band. And it's a wind instrument. This is a wind instrument. All of the things that I had to learn about tone quality and air, focus on air and projection and all that I had to learn through my horns, I put through my voice. And I wouldn't say I'm a technician. I don't do, you know, exercises or anything like that. But I play with my records a lot. You know, I play with Miles, I play with Chet Baker, I play with Dexter Gordon, you know, and Oliver Nelson. Bill Evans, you can't unlearn any of the stuff those guys lay on you, you know, and it just doesn't really matter to me to la 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 la. Doesn't matter to me to do that every day because I'll sing. I'll just sing. I dated this guy who was from Harlem, and he says, warm up? What? You better work the Chitlin circuit. Find out you don't have time to warm up. You got to get out there and just sing, baby. You know, so I took that to heart, you know, and yeah, you open up your mouth and you let it rip much as you can. But to be considering all the things that I'd learned and are just sort of in there, you know, from playing the horn, pretty much. And realizing, that this is the only instrument that delivers with a word. The inside sound that you have of a word is where you hook your tone quality, and you've got to pronounce all the sounds of that word. I can't tell you how many singers come up to a word, W-O-R-L-D. You don't hear the O-R-L at all. You hear Wald. I'm like, well, how do you spell that? They're like, okay, I see your point. And it's the truth, because then you get more out of a word. That is the way you are actually able to expel your vocal sound. You need a word, So all of the inside sounds of a word are extremely important to carry your tone. And that was what was happening with the horns. How the inside shape of your mouth allowed the sound, the air, to get into. It wasn't just what the instrument was made of. It was also how you projected your air through it. That gave it a particular tone quality, the shape of the inside shape of your mouth. Same thing for vocalizing, When I tell people to open their mouths when they sing, they'll be doing this kind of thing. And it's like, that's really not what I mean, They'll keep the inside shape of their mouth very thin, instead of giving it that ovalness. Boy, we have to work backwards with this camera, don't we? Yeah. Oval, they've got a shape like this instead of like this. This is what allows all the sound of your word to come forward. And they're like, well, how do I do that? Well, I said, well, it's between the soft palate and the tongue. You've got to have, some sort of feel for what you're doing there. And there's so many people who talk like this. This is the tongue up to the roof of the mouth, And it's like, you're not going to sing like that, are you? Sorry, open mouth, insert foot, Sagittarian, Aries rising.
I really am opposed to the that pop glottal thing. Yeah, that's just really, that's unless the student really wants to grow, then they don't really work on that. They don't hear it. They don't hear, it's like this. It's not a jazz sound, and it's not really good singing. It's strange how that developed into the popular singing, all that kind of sound,
I do know. And I lost a few students because I kept trying to get them out of it.
Yeah.
But it's a popular thing at this point. But you know what? They're going to grow up.
Maybe.
Yeah, but are they going to be like 55 years old and singing like that? I don't think so. Cyndi Lauper doesn't. I mean, she had a little girl sound to begin with, but she also is incredibly soulful. And she brings all of that in to, every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make that point to these girls. They were in a bag. That was it. That was where they were singing.
Yeah.
And
My friend Roland, he's liking how you're speaking, and he wants to know if you're familiar with a South Korean singer named Yoon Sung Na.
I am not. I am familiar with Yoon Sun Kim, who was a student of mine. She's in Australia right now, winning freaking amount of awards.
Oh.
Because she composes. I stole her. She was a classical pianist at DU when I was teaching there.
Uh-huh.
But who is this other person?
Yoon Sun Na, N-A-H. He's a fan of hers. Also, my friend Taylor Hatch is here. He's a guitarist. He's over at University of North Texas, and he would like to. He has two questions, but one is, how much would you say your teaching philosophy has changed? What significantly has been influencing you to broaden your educational horizons, if you go down that road?
Well, truth of the matter is, I don't get to teach as much as I want to teach because I don't have a lot of jazz singer students at all. I've got just basic student singers, okay? And to get them to actually open their sound has really been an issue. It's some of that same, philosophy of that glottal thing that they do all the time. It seems to be pervasive, and I have a hard time with that so much. But you know, the jazz singers that actually have come to me for instruction, I tell them the same thing. You know, basically, it's like, don't listen to singers. Listen to horn players.
Yeah.
Listen to other things, because what your tendency to do by listening to just singers is to try and sound like those singers.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to how is this music filtered through inspiration, you know, and it's a wind instrument, so I'm listening to trombones, trumpets, saxophones. It's all wind instruments. I listen to how they tongue, you know, how they attack their notes, if it's a t or a f, you know, and I find my scat words from those kinds of things instead of listening to singers doobie doobie doo, you know,
Which is hard to listen to.
it's really hard to listen to, because what they're not understanding is that you're not trying to sound like an instrument of except it's not about you sounding like a trumpet or a saxophone, or what it is you taking that the set of changes and finding some sort of wind approach to how are you going to deal with them. And I think I had the advantage by being a horn player, because I understood the phrasing thing, that the tonguing or the soft hit, and singers aren't realizing that some of their scat words need to accommodate that. It's not about just having beeps and bops and boops, you know, which is rife in the vocal jazz ensemble, college, high school, stuff, you know. And I'll take the criticism. I don't care. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's more, it's a perspective. I think, you know, a lot of singing is a perspective, right? And I know you could apply that to other instruments, but so much for a singer, because we do get hung up, you know, with the lyrics and are people looking at us, and, all that kind of stuff. It takes a long time to get through all that stuff, you know. And, some people get through it earlier. You know, some people have to get to 70 years old to get it. And, I mean, I'm always working on it, I guess, you know, in the studio especially. It's just like, wow, I got to really stop listening to myself, you know. It's challenging, you know. I like this Taylor question. Was there any one epiphany you encountered in your career that helped you gravitate toward being a better artist?
Yeah. Actually, I'm trying to find the one. There were a few of them. One was at Carnegie Hall. The girls and I were with Benny Goodman. We were doing a Carnegie Hall concert, blah, blah, woof, woof. And periodically, when we were on tour with him, he'd ask me to scat. And I thought, well, how fun would that be to get a little scat solo on Sing, Sing, Sing at Carnegie Hall? So I'm practicing in my C minor, F minor to C minor, because Benny would always go to his old key. And I thought, well, if he's soloing, it's going to be a C minor, you know, that you'll have to gravitate around. So I'm practicing, and I'm just working up some things, and here comes the time for the show, and we're singing, and I'm just feeling everybody's energy that was there on that stage from day one. I mean, you couldn't help it. It was just pervasive. And we're almost to the end of the night, end of the program, and I said in my head, I said, well, I don't care if Benny asked me to solo or not. I said, just being up here and being with all of this heritage that was here was just plenty. Well, all of a sudden I hear, and he goes, me and the drums. I lost myself. I had no idea where I was. All I know is that I was not going to hit the floor. That's all I knew. And I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, and then I opened my eyes, and the stage was, and everybody on it was like this big, you know? And I said, what am I doing all the way up here? And I went straight back down into my body, almost knocked the mic stands over. Caught them all, none of them hit the floor. It was a very life-changing experience for me, that I was able to get so far away from myself. I had no opportunity to direct any of it. It was just going to come through. That's all. That was one epiphany, and that's stayed with me, and stayed with me for like freaking ever. It still is. And no control. Don't control. You know your changes. You know the form of the tune. Let go. And working with Art Lande just really pushes me right to the edge of every inch of that, because he's like another, I expect him to turn around to me and go, well, you did that last time. Because there isn't. I mean, whose Monday is like their Tuesday is like their Wednesday, And so that was one epiphany. Another was working with Richard Davis, did a duo concert with him. And we were almost to the end of it, and he stops in the middle of the tune. I don't know what we were doing. I think it might have been Blue Bossa or something. No, it was a Bill Evans tune. And we were trading off, just trading back and forth on it. And he stood up, stops the tune, he stood up, he says, I have no more ideas. Of course, in my head, I went, oh, right. I mean, he's been feeding me this whole time, But there was that, where it was like, okay, you feed ideas and something makes you pick up on it every time. That was another epiphany, So it's not about you directing everything. It's about you listening. Where is it going to direct me? Where is it going? You might hear one rhythmic thing that the drummer is doing, and you're going to pick that rhythmic thing up and put it into, maybe it'll start your line, or maybe it'll be something that you displace. You take that one motif and you displace it. But it's not coming from you. It's coming from everything else.
I actually, when we saw you with Hazel, that selection, I noticed that you were super connected to the drummer. Wow. You really connected. I mean, you were communicating with the bass player a lot, but every time the drummer did something or you did something, the drummer did something. Yeah, I love that, actually. I think connecting to the drummer is really, it's great. It's fun. It needs to be.
Yeah, it needs to be, and singers, I finally broke through the barrier of, once I had a trio working with me, where they stopped saying, you want us to open with a couple of tunes? Like, no, I really don't. No, we're a band. Let's play. If you want to do something in the middle, just give me a high sign, and I'll split the stage. But
Yeah.
most often it doesn't happen. They finally stopped, treating me like the chick singer.
Yeah.
Which, and it wasn't like they didn't have any better idea. It's just, I guess it's very common, and I don't consider myself very common. I mean, I do what I do because I love it. I do what I do because that I love it. It pulls other people into actually wanting to do more with me.
Yeah.
Which I'm really pleased about, Of course, you're running into things anymore that they kind of squelch you in a way. I'm getting a little nervous about a lot of online activity and stuff, because we're being censored really badly, and collectively and continuously. A friend of mine asked me to send him the lyrics. I rewrote some lyrics to Horace Silver's Lonely Woman. And I got lazy. I took a picture from my lyric book and I just sent it to them on text, and they wouldn't send it. And I kept pushing the button, kept pushing that little resend. Finally, this little balloon came up and said, inappropriate content.
Was this in something like Facebook or what?
No, it was not.
It was
It
on
was
your text? Really?
Facebook. I need to get off of Facebook pretty much entirely. There's people who are getting my information and making posts that I don't, and it puts me in jail. And so I'm just, it's not like I'm feeling like such a victim of this. There's a lot of people who are a victim of it, but I don't even want them to have any of my information. There's a new setup anymore. They want access to everything I have on my computer. I'm like, what? And then so I did more research, and it turns out that the government has given them their own hand at any rights. So you're not protected by First Amendment rights at all. So I need to get off of that. I exercise my rights. I'm a passionate human being. I'm not about to be turned into a robot, which is another thing. AI, really, I think that's a big part of it. AI cannot be discerning about what it is,
My husband is
Okay.
what?
Her head is empty. Cancer.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's, just
Well, I wonder.
life keeps moving and we keep seeing all this stuff and yeah, it's just, I just try and redirect my attention to the present moment and more spiritual ideas and music and helping people. And that's what I just keep redirecting my attention to because the other stuff is always around. It's not like you can like cut out everything because you can't. You have like your phone. You can't even send a message. That's bizarre. A text message. It's really
And
weird.
that's the thing that was really concerning. And this happened again yesterday. I recorded some tracks for a student. It was Natural Woman, and she wanted it in G instead of the key that we chose. So I titled it, and I it's Natural Woman in G, and sent it to her, and they wouldn't send it. What I had to do was say rhythm tracks. There was nothing that even said anything about Natural Woman. Yeah, they
Get
sent
that.
that. They sent that. That went. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I refuse to be that kind of cold. There's nothing wrong with that. This was educational material. AI has no idea.
Yeah.
And if it's coming down to where a lot of things are going to be filtering through AI, what? And the government has taken out all of its, no, it's a separate, that we're going to put you in a category that we don't have to have anything to do with. So, and now it's all this other stuff. So I'm wondering if at some point, things that we record, will they be able to be played on the air if they're talking about inappropriate content on, a lyric sheet? It's getting a little scary for me. So, in that way.
Yeah.
What if I'm recording Lonely Woman, is it not going to get any airplay because they think the lyric content is inappropriate? Well, sorry, I'm 70 years old. I've lived a lot of this stuff and I'm still here and I still pay taxes. So, what? Let me go ahead and play what I need to play. Let me get my students what it is they need without your interference, and I had to figure out how I was going to do that, so I had to retitle the one thing. And if it's going to be turned into that, if we're going to be subject to that, I just really wonder how far we can actually push our creativity. You know, it could be deemed inappropriate content.
You could be deemed inappropriate content. Forget what you're saying. You could be deemed that.
Yes.
What is that? Not Animal Farm, but the other one he wrote.
1984.
Yeah, that was the most wrong book I could have read during the pandemic. I thought, oh, I've never read 1984. I'm going to read it. Oh my God, I thought I should have never read that now. That was a really bad book to read at that time. But that's, you know,
It's not out of the question. You know?
nothing's out of the question. My husband and I were talking last night. We were watching some kind of alien, information because there's a lot of shows on aliens now. Like, um, uh, you know, whatever. Anyway, but we're thinking, oh yeah, we were watching, and these are scientists and stuff. They're saying they have. Let's see, there is a I don't know if you would call it a communication. I would call it a communication coming from outer space, and the scientists here on the planet have created a machine to receive it, but they don't know what it says. So this is kind of recent, and but then there's discussions amongst the scientists. Um, do we want to find out what they're saying? Because it could happen that when the machine, our machines kind of line it up and get the communication, that could actually be the way in that they could communicate something or create a virus or blah blah blah. So anyway, my husband and I were talking about that. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, the aliens could come down tomorrow, and go,
Aliens could be even here. They could be
yeah.
here already.
But I mean, we could be gone tomorrow. But so what? Right now is, I always tell him this, it's about being in the moment. I mean, luckily, what we love and do is really about being in the moment. And I mean, that's in all by itself is such a huge gift to the world that, is not totally overlooked, but to normal people, they don't even see that. They just say, "Oh, you're doing jazz. It's creative. It's a hobby or whatever." But the actual pieces that make jazz are educational to human beings.
Yes.
So, you know, being in the moment and reacting in the moment and doing, moving, like putting one step in front of the other in the best way that you can, working together with people, I mean, just so many beautiful lessons that we have, that we could share and teach people. And I don't know how else to think of it. It's the moment. Yeah, I'm making plans for next week and next month, but still, it's in the moment. That's what's really happening. Whatever's happening now.
Yeah, well, that's the realistic version of your life. It's
Yeah,
everybody. It's you're only here now. You're here now. You're not tomorrow.
right.
You can be thinking what you're doing right now, how it may affect tomorrow, or what it'll help you set up with for tomorrow. But you don't even know if tomorrow's coming.
Yeah,
So you do only have the moment. But I think the tendency to have something to look forward to is been given to us as a way of achieving a little happiness, perhaps. Something that excites you. I think about sitting down and working on some of these tunes, I've got a rehearsal on Friday, and there's some things that I'd really like to bring forward, and that excites me. What am I going to do? Oh, ooh, let's try that. Ooh, let's try that. And then you want to see what happens on that rehearsal on Friday when it's only Monday.
That's cool.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a reality. It's
I
a
have a gig
reality choice.
Saturday. I have a gig with this Nonette that I was telling you about that I wrote the lyrics for the Monk tunes. And yeah, so we've had over the last 3 years, we've had several gigs and we've actually recorded and we're finishing the recording now. And so it'll be out hopefully by June. But it's great arrangements. My partner in crime is a bass player who's a great arranger and a great musical director, and he has a studio, and so it's really fun. And there's a lot of playing in it, a lot of instrumental playing and me playing, and but the arrangements are so cool, and the music that we picked is great, and so and we all think, yeah, we want to have fun, let's do it. I mean, it's challenging, the arrangements, but not so challenging that it's painful, you know,
Right.
and yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's just another real nice gig with the group, so.
Nice. Is it only a one-time hit?
Yeah, it's kind of like a pre CD release, because maybe we'll do another one in June. Um, and we've done several gigs, uh, in the last few years, probably like four with this group, and yeah. So Saturday, actually, you can see it online.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a Kulak's Woodshed, which is a place that I was booking last year. Um, it's this very funky, cool room, very comfortable. It's in North Hollywood. It's been there for 25 years, and he did more singer-songwriter and acoustic rock, and so last year he was needing more juice in the place because it's kind of an unusual place. It's a video recording studio, not really a venue. I mean, it is, but it's you have to pay for a video recording, but you get a great one. And so anyway, I did a lot of booking last year, jazz stuff, and jazz people didn't really fully know about the place. So yeah, usually it's online, and yeah, so that's Saturday from 8 to 10. Kulak's Woodshed. I'll send you the name of it too.
That'd be great.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we did two Schofield tunes. We did a Matheny song. We did a Jobim song. Louisa, are you familiar with that? Gorgeous song. And let's see, there's one original and a few standards that are deranged, as you said, and a few composers' material, Otmar Ruiz and Vince Mendoza, and yeah, so it's a pretty cool project.
Cool. Saturday?
Saturday, yep, but yeah, do you I mean, you scatted with this woman who's the video that we saw. Do you have the opportunity to scat with a lot of other singers?
Um, a handful of a few. Some won't because they don't. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just standards. They sing just standards. Improvising is not part of their thing. Yeah, I improvise with Jocelyn. She's very easy to improvise. It's so much easier to improvise with somebody who knows their chord changes, okay, and is not afraid to move out of, a standard situation, you're in this groove, and then all of a sudden your scat decides it's gonna double time things. She'll move right along with you. Elena will do the same, but there's not a whole lot of them. They aren't really. I mean, they learn scat words as opposed to learning chord changes. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but my experience of working with people who know their chord changes as opposed to singers who don't, I have much more fun working with those who know their changes.
Yeah. Do you teach scatting?
When I get someone interested enough to do it, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably a very organic teacher when it comes to scat, right? Or I mean, obviously knowing the chord changes.
Well, I think it's a beginning. You can't do anything if musically phrase without knowing where the chords are going. You can make things up, along the way, and you could end up losing yourself in a tune, which is where I've found a lot of things end up going with people who aren't really inside of their tune. And that's such a hard thing to recover from. It's like the video you played. I kept waiting for the bridge of that tune to come in. It never did. I finally put it into my scat. Is there a bridge in this tune? Are you gonna hit it? At one point. And because my ears go through the form of the tune, it goes through all of the chord changes. And I don't know what starts that or where that started, but I don't ever remember not being able to do that. Not being able to hear what does a song do. And as far as scatting on anything goes, it's really very few sounds. It's more about what's inside. The aw, the ah, the o, the that is really, how you kick that off with a B or a D or a K, and because there really isn't any scat dictionary, contrary to, what gets printed for that kind of stuff. There really isn't a scat dictionary. It's what you hear. I mean, look at the difference between Ella Fitzgerald's scatting and Betty Carter's scatting. They're both really freaking good. I prefer Betty's only because I hear more of a horn in her. I hear masterful skill coming out of Ella. I don't think she would ever have hit a wrong note. Seriously. Betty will take a wrong note just like Miles and do it again.
Yeah.
Same
I
way.
grew up on Ella. And but then later on I was kind of somewhat disappointed in her because she just she would repeat her stuff over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
that was disappointing. I mean, and Sarah had other issues as she grew older, sloppy and drinking a lot and, that kind of stuff. But I think Carmen was the person who really held my respect a lot, but Betty too. But Carmen, man, she was always in the moment. Her phrasing was incredible. How I've had a lot of workshops here, a lot of teachers leading workshops here. And, so many teachers say, don't interrupt the sentence. Carmen interrupted the sentence all the time. Didn't matter because she was carrying the song so intimately that if she paused, you were like listening. You were right there. You were with her, traveling with her. So I really admired Carmen as I grew older and
I
listened to
agree.
her as she did too. Yeah.
But I'm
How
sure
did you?
Yeah, I'm sure in those places where she broke in between, she didn't break until she left you with a visual.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? This is how we speak.
Yeah,
That's part of how I explain phrasing to my, students, if I
yeah,
can. I say, this is a sentence has got 4 different segments that you can take pauses at, you know, instead of taking a breath in between a syllable.
Yeah.
You know, there is that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you going to say, hon? Sorry.
Remember someone to watch over me, like, although he may not be the man, some girls say, oh God. That might have been the first song that I ever got really fully conscious about. Oh shit, that is not going to happen.
Right. You
I
know,
was actually just going to ask you about your history because I don't know how you grew up and when you started singing and all that.
well, I never grew up. So
Oh, okay.
here. And the singing came about. Um, I was studying at CU, and it was a complete music program, and a lot of credits. I grew up in New York, and I had taken some college level courses, some music theory, music history, a few other things that were transcript worthy until you crossed the Mississippi. So I ended up having to repeat those classes. Well, that's when I learned how to play guitar, because I would skip these classes and I'd go sit in the middle of Clear Creek and learn how to play guitar. You know, I'd passed the test. I already had all the material. I had a 3.0. They wasted their scholarship by making me take that whole first year entirely over. And that got kind of boring, you know. So I put up a sign saying to somebody, anybody, you know, if you're into this style of music, reach me. I'm looking for some extracurricular. And that's when I started singing, but I wouldn't sing by myself. I'd sing harmony. You know, I would never take a lead. And that lasted until, probably the third group I was in. I finally broke out and sang some old R&B tune, kind of like from the ilk of Boy from New York City. I can't think of the title of the tune, and people really liked it. And it wasn't like I was such a great singer. It was just all of a sudden they heard this other voice instead of always the other two. And I thought, well, that wasn't so hard. I mean, I didn't turn into a pillar of salt or, you know, crumble, you know, into ashes here. Maybe I can sing by myself. And the thing that made me not want to sing by myself was when I was in grade school. You know, we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'd sing the national anthem, but it was the My Country 'Tis of Thee tune. It wasn't the bombs bursting in air tune. And I'd sing harmony. And this boy I had a crush on turned around, and he heard me singing harmony, started laughing at me.
Oh,
That was when I'm not singing. I'm not singing. John laughed at me. I'm not singing. So solo-wise, you know, that stuff didn't happen until probably my very early. In fact, I was maybe 20, 21 before I'd even sing by myself. But I was always in groups, you know. Of course, you know, upon meeting up with a few people, I dropped out of college and just started learning how to get the music off the page and out to the room. And made a big difference in how I felt about music, too. I mean, I always loved playing. I'd always lose myself in it. You know, growing up in New York, you have weeks of wet weather. Now, who's going to go outside and play in the rain?
yeah.
You know, so my mom always had this big old couple of big boxes full of piano music, and I'd spend hours playing through it, you know.
You were playing piano at that time and horn too at that time?
Yeah, you know, and I have students that do that, and I keep telling the parents, I'm like, you know, let them go through as many instruments as they need to until they find the one they want. So that's what my parents were letting me do, you know. But I went in as a double major. I was piano and clarinet major. The other stuff was just strictly for my own entertainment purposes mainly. I wanted to play in the orchestra. That's why I picked up the oboe. They didn't have an oboe player. They needed an oboe player. So, temperamental instrument. Really temperamental. But yeah, so that's when I started singing by myself, out of groups. It wouldn't be a whole night, it would be a tune or two, or a spot in a tune, or so that was safe, until I got more confident about actually, being able to sing and realizing what is it. And it was people like Betty Carter and Carmen McRae who really made me take a look at what is it? Why does this person sound so good on this tune? What is it that I like about what I'm hearing? And right off the bat was not just what they sounded like, but was more how they delivered their lyric. They gave me a movie in my head. They created a scene. And it wasn't just about using the words to get the notes by or using the notes to get the words by. It was a whole lot more than that from people who did it. And as soon as I saw Betty Carter for the first time up here at Tulagi's, I think it was, up on the hill in Boulder, I said, no, that woman owns the whole ding-dang stage. That is a jazz singer. She was all over the place on that stage, but you knew she didn't have to have a pin spot on her. She was drenched by the time she was done, and it's like, that's a workout. That's a real jazz singer. It wasn't about, the gown and the pin spot. It just wasn't anything about that at all. It was actually vocal aerobics, if you really want to get down to it. I mean, she was working it.
Yeah.
And that made me get a little bit more involved in solo singing, because it's like, well, I hear this in them. Can I do that? Well, yeah, I read a lot. I see how you can take a sentence and, make it, with the same words, make it have a different angle each time you say it, depending on what words you bring out. So, it started to become a really fun project to do that with a lot of tunes. And I tell my students right off, I says, you need some phrasing happening here. Take every note out of this song and read it as if you were saying it to someone. And it makes a world of difference in how the tune comes out of them at that point.
Yeah.
So, our job really is to tell the story.
Yeah.
More than anything. And I still struggle with that when I'm soloing, improvising. It's like, am I really getting, because you listen to Dexter, man, and or Ben Webster, you can hear them crying or who's the guy that did the pork pie hat? See, here goes that blank again.
Yeah. Who did that?
Booker Irvin.
Huh?
Booker Irvin.
Oh, okay.
The solo in that. I mean, you'd hear him crying in a way, and
Yeah.
it's like, am I actually getting that out of my own soloing? I don't think so yet. I dance on the melody. I dance on the rhythms. I'm not sure I've actually evolved enough yet to put so much emotion into that, although, we're always our own worst critic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's fun continuing to grow and learn, though, and so, and if you surround yourself with other people who you like, who give off good vibes or who feel the same way about quality, like what is quality,
Yeah.
Taylor wants to know, what songs or standards do you go back to for inspiration?
For inspiration, anything by Duke. Duke kicks me every time. If you really, and what happens in my listening of a song is, I'm not just listening for one thing. I'm listening to the rhythm section playing together, for example. Then I'm listening to the color of the chords that the horn sections are hitting. Then listening to how does the rhythm section and the horns interplay. You know, I mean, there's anything by Duke, anything. Duke and Strayhorn. That's where I go. And then Monk.
Do you have anything recorded of them that we can listen to? Or if you want to sing something, that's fine.
Anything recorded by them? How do you mean? I mean, something I recorded of theirs, or
Yes.
oh, I don't know, girl. I don't know. I have recordings. I don't know that I've recorded anything by Duke. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. But it wasn't Duke. It was Billy Strayhorn. A Flower is a Lovesome Thing.
Oh, I love that song.
It's a beautiful tune. I recorded it on my first CD, and you know, you could still hear the group sound in my solo sound at that point. You know, I mean, there was no individuality quite yet. I wasn't even out of my 30s yet. And I know that sounds old these days because, you know, Ella and Billy and all them were like already kicking it.
I don't think it sounds old. I think it sounds young.
But, you know, I've done the tune since, and I've done it in anybody's key, whoever wants to accompany, and I've done it in the way they want to do it. And it's always a different approach to the tune. When you know the chord changes and you know the melody, you know the just the feel of the tune, what's inside of the tune, you can deliver it in any way that you can. The last time I did it was with a guitarist who I played it in his key, which it didn't bother me at all, you know, I mean, because the melody's the melody. And he played it really open and not real, you know, with a groove and so all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with it, you know, but I heard all the chords that Duke would have used, you know, how fat he made his harmonics, just crazy. So it would be anything of Duke and anything of Monk, you know, for inspiration or re-inspiration.
Do you mind if we listen to you sing it on your record, or?
Oh, no, I don't mind.
Okay.
A flower is a lovesome thing, a luscious, living, lovesome thing, a daffodil, a rose, no matter where it grows, is such a lovely, lovesome thing. A flower is the heart of spring that makes the rolling hillside sing. The gentle winds that blow, blow gently, for they know a flower is a lovesome thing. Playing in the breeze, shaded by the trees, in the silent night or in the morning sun, Azaleas drinking pale moonbeams, gardenias floating through daydreams. No matter where it grows, wherever you may go, a flower is a lonesome thing.
Well, you are now 0.00009 cents richer because Roland bought 2 available CDs.
I wish I could say, well, now I can afford a stick of gum, but that's not even close. Thank you, Roland.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's a
my-
really beautiful song. Really. I
It,
think the
uh,
first
it-
time I heard that, Sheila Jordan, heard Sheila do that. It's just some songs jump out at you, you know, and that song is really beautiful.
I like the angles in it,
Yeah.
and the fact that the melody isn't always in some tonal place. It's got extensions written into it, and I love those kinds of things.
Yeah, what was that other, is that a Duke song? I can't think of the name of it. I'm sure you know it. I think it's a Duke song. I gotta find this out. Hold on. Because that'll drive me crazy. Um, let's see if I can locate this song. It's not Duke Ellington's Sound of Love, no, right?
That's another gorgeous tune.
It is really beautiful. How does that start?
Flower is going through my head right now. What was it?
Me too.
I
Yeah.
can't remember how it starts, but I remember that line.
I don't think it's that one, but there's something. Let's see. There's another song that starts off kind of regularly, and then it goes into. Well, maybe it's the Peacocks.
Oh, well, yeah, that's on my list to record.
Yeah, I think that was the one I was thinking of because the bridge is wow.
Yeah, it was really, really odd, but I found almost that same line in a piece, and I can't think of who wrote it, but it was a classic, neoclassic piece called "Hymn to the Sun," and it started out with that line that they used in the bridge, and I can't think of who wrote it though. John Thompson Book Series 3. That's where it is.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's the last tune, but it's that bridge line that Jimmy Rolls used.
Yeah, that just freaked me out when I first heard it. I heard a student introduced it to me and I was like, "What is that? I have to sing that." Because I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really haunting and beautiful. Makes me think of, listening to Benny Maupin. Benny Maupin lives here. And he used to play a lot before the pandemic. He, several times in the year. And I would just wait in the audience for his tension notes. I would just wait because the experience of that was so beautiful. He loved those notes, and they just were part of the woof and warp of the whole thing. It was just, I'm getting chills just thinking of it. So great. I like to teach, like if I give a scat class, I always started off with teaching them or going over chromatic scales and against chords. Put your hands on any chord and sing a chromatic scale, each note, hold it, and love the relationship, because you see a lot of times people, making faces and crumbling because they think the note they've sung, is shitty, right? And which makes it shitty.
Yeah.
So just
Energy.
love it, love that note, and then bring it somewhere else, whatever. But oh man, yeah. But I really, when somebody's playing tension and loving it, and it's beautiful, beautiful thing, right?
Yes, it is. It sure is. It creates this whole other overtone dynamic
Yeah,
that can happen, especially when they're just hit so well together. That was the one thing that I did enjoy about working in Rare Silk. I mean, those guys were so hell bent on this is my note, that you could count on it being there, and throwing your voices into the center, okay, and letting those notes collide would raise up overtones that I always loved that. I mean,
yeah,
especially when they were very, very well in tune, and we had good opportunities to do that. I mean, studio and just some, in general, the four of us being who we were, and making those overtones was a thing. It became a thing.
yeah,
Became something that we were really focused on, and because it really fattened up the sound. It wasn't just your four voices, it rung with things in the room, if they were hit just right. And
yeah. It's making me think of. Sorry, I'm a little woo-woo in my thinking, but it's making me think of, what kind of a lesson in life that is, to relate it to a lesson in life. And it's kind of, leads me to think of meditation too, how you're in meditation, the idea is to see good and bad as just it's part of the threads. It's not like good and bad. It's just good and bad. What it is, and and so that makes me think about that too. It's everything is part of the now. Everything, the bartender grinding his smoothie drinker. He's part of what exists. I had a blind friend, a piano player, who used to make, I don't know how he did it exactly, but when he'd hear that, it was part of the whole music. He didn't answer it or anything. Maybe he left space for it or something. I don't know. It was really terrific. But yeah, I like to find lessons, along the way. That's how I live. It just makes me a nicer person.
well, yeah, it also makes you a more full person.
Yeah.
I mean, you see beyond just what is in front of you.
Hmm.
And I think that richness the experience. I mean, I had a very odd thing happen. Well, it happens often, but this particular was one of the first times. I was accompanying this student who had such a lovely little voice, really well in tune, but about this big. And I didn't see her face, and something hit me. And before I even turned around, I said, "Who ever told you you couldn't sing?" There was silence in the room. I turn around and she's like, "How did you know that?" you know, and there was other things that came through while she was singing. And, you know, I try to channel this stuff. You know, I've done it subsequent times, you know, and gotten people out of their junk,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But you can't help but pick up on some of that if you just get out of your way,
Yeah.
you know? And when you got a student in there, they are revealing so many things that they're not even aware of sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
she got so freaked out by that, and I said, "Look, sorry."
Yeah.
My New York way, sorry. And you know, and I said, the voice is revealing. You are vulnerable the moment you open your mouth. Someone who is listening will know the state of your soul, even.
Yeah.
You know, and from that point forward, that little girl brought out so much more of her sound. Because, you know, of course I said, well, first of all, your father was wrong. You know,
Yeah.
your father couldn't sing, right? She goes, well, he
Yeah.
couldn't carry a tune in a beach basket. I said, well, there you go. He was kind of remarking on the fact that you could, and he didn't want you to actually go there because he couldn't. I said, and that's just wrong. That's just stultifying, and you'll never get that treatment in my room, if anything. So I pushed her a little bit. You know, she had a little more confidence when she got up to do her juries. She actually auditioned to be a singer in one of the ensembles, which she would never have done otherwise. So, you know, when you can pick up on those nuances that people think they're doing so well to hide.
Very true. And being a singing teacher, you see a lot of that. And, you know, this is one of the main chakras. And yeah, I've had lots of experiences like that too. You just know what's going on. You hear it, you see it. And yeah, and it can be really a wonderful lesson for the people going through it, you know. Um, yeah. Um,
Well, I think a good teacher will expand you, you
yeah.
know? I have no need to be in competition with any of my students or anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
we all stand on our own, you know. Walk beside me. I'm not walking in anybody else's footsteps either,
Yeah.
you know. So when you start to realize that, or when you start to employ that, you start to realize just how much more a part of everything else you are, not just here, you know. Um, and my cat, for some reason I get this idea that she needs to come in, and the doors are all closed and what have you, and I open the door and there she is sitting there looking at me. Let me in. You know, you kind of give yourself a break from having to constantly be the one who's driving the car, you
Yeah.
know.
I like that. That's a good way to put it, and that is so true. When I feel stressed, I know it's time to stop and just give up the steering.
At that moment, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good feeling to relinquish, you know, to not feel as though you've got all of this that you're having to tote all the time.
Yeah.
Well, what is that really but an ego decision that you're that important?
It's true, you know, and the black culture, in my life, most of my friends, I'll say, in the black culture are Christians, and they will talk about giving it up to the Lord, you know. And I always found that fascinating because that's what they're doing, what we're talking about. They're giving up the reins, you know. It's just like just let the universe
Let,
flow,
yes, yes.
and then you deal with what's coming up. But you know, and no matter how you say it, it's good. You know, it's a great thing to do.
It is, you know, because you reevaluate yourself in those incidents. And, you know, I always come away feeling, you know, like, well, glad I don't have to do that or be that like that anymore. Or
Yeah,
I see, you know, because it's enough of it can be a burden, you
yeah,
know. We burden ourselves with all kinds of things that we make out of a myth, basically. I'm not
I,
gonna
you
go
know,
to work.
for me, I'm going to pose this last question a little just to say what I'm going through lately, and I'm your age, so we've seen the same number of years go by and stuff, and I feel more and more. I imagine myself more and more just telling people exactly what I think, and not, I don't want to be mean, you know, but I don't want to buffer you up either. You know what I mean?
Me neither. I think that's the worst thing you can do to somebody is not be real and honest with them.
Yeah,
And I tell my students and my students' parents is, look, I am not a new age teacher.
yeah,
Your child gets either first, second, or third place. That's it.
yeah,
That gives them then something to aspire to,
right.
which they're given everything these days. They're just given everything, and they don't feel like if you're not going to do that, then you're taking away from them. Well, no, I'm really not. If anybody's taking anything away, it's just someone who's given you everything so that you don't have to have any life experience.
Yeah, and failure is such a necessary thing to have.
Yes, it is. Because you have to know what else you need to do to get up there.
Yeah,
And I'm down there with you about not worrying about how you say what you say, or just speaking your mind. I mean, a number of people have said, well, Marguerite, why don't you just tell us what you really think? I don't know what else. And, I'm the kind of person, well, let me put it this way. I'm the kind of person that has developed out of being in my entire adult life alone, which I was by choice. I've had men friends, I've had relationships, this, that, and the other. No kids, no one to be responsible to or for creates a very different human being. You don't cull what you think. You don't have to. And what you think enough times is not necessarily designed to pull the pins out from somebody, pull their pins out from under them. Not at all. It's just no reason to be all this flowery, vagueness that doesn't. And I tell them too. I said, look, you're going to get the truth from me, and I'm not. If you're gifted and talented in school, great, bring it with you, but don't throw it at me when I'm trying to give you something that is going to expand you,
yeah,
because you're fighting me on it
right.
at that point. And that's not a good learning experience. I won't deal with that very judiciously. I really won't, because it pisses me off, to be fair. Deal with yourself. Look in the mirror. See who you are. Bring that. Bring that. It's not about who you're going to design yourself to be.
Yeah,
Bring who you
yeah.
are.
I like when people show up at the lesson and they're really talented, but they really want to learn something. I love
Yeah,
that, you know?
yeah.
Great.
That's a good lesson,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
it can turn out to be a good lesson. You
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Well, Marguerite, it's been 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it has. Holy
It's
crap.
amazing, huh? It goes by. Every time I tell somebody, oh, it's 2 hours, they go, oh, 2 hours, I'm not sure. And then at the end, it's like, oh, that was really. I mean, of course, we're talking about what we want to talk about, and we're in the same tribe, basically. So it's fun. Thank you for spending this time. It's really nice of you.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate sitting here visiting with you. We've not ever been in each other's company, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. We can still engage.
Yeah.
And for 2 hours, had exactly the same response. What am I going to do for 2 hours?
I've been sitting here occasionally thinking, God, who does she speak like? It's somebody I know really well. You may not know her. She's a singer and an actress. Her name is Susan Krebs. She lives in LA. But you guys, it would be funny to see the two of you talk together because you guys speak a lot alike. And she was an actress, especially in the days of Columbo and those kind of
Okay.
TV shows. She
Yeah.
was on a lot of those, as like she had speaking parts, but she was kind of the, not the star. And then she got really into singing, and she's a dedicated singer, growth, and she has the opportunity of having the same great musicians play, over the years. She puts on home concerts. She's pretty cool. But Susan Krebs, if you ever come in
Run
contact,
across the name.
yeah, I think you guys would get along really well. Um, yep. And so, anything you want to tell anybody who's listening about what to look for? Something coming up or anything like that?
Well, I'm not sure what the platform is going to be, but there's going to be some new recording coming out. That much I do know.
Okay.
There's the Innocence Project
Yeah.
is out there in LA. A gal that I work with, she's got me on the 20th, and I'll be
Oh,
doing.
good. The 20th. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, that's live streamed.
Yeah.
And
For those of you, there's a bunch of people who know about that, but it's Deborah Graff's,
right,
um,
that's right.
streaming thing. I actually last week, 2 weeks ago or something, I did a tribute to Jay.
Yeah,
Actually,
on hers, on her
yeah,
platform.
me and my friend Mon David, we have a vocal improv group that we've had together for 8 years called Fish to Birds, and he and I do a lot of work together. So, and then um, there was Andrea Wolper and Judy Niemak and Kate Baker. I think that was it. Um, anyway, it was really nice. It was beautiful. Everybody did like 3 songs, and it was sweet. So anyway, Deb has some nice people on, and then she uses a lot of adjectives. I don't know
Yes,
if you've
she
been on
does.
the show, but
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, I've
She's
done a few of
adorable.
them. Brought a few different folks in. Sometimes it's just me. I had a vocal group last time, and I enjoy doing those things for her.
Yeah.
And anybody I involve in it, thank God for, they never ask, how much am I getting paid? Only one person did. My benefit performance? So, but yeah, and it's you don't have to leave home, for heaven's
Yeah.
sake.
She has a lot of good people on. She had Jay on actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Well, the 20th, I'm gonna try and watch that. Have a great day.
You do the same, and thank you. Thank you for doing this. And anybody who's out there, thank you for tuning in. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, you were fine. You were great. It was fun.
Cool. Thank you, doll. Do I just leave, or do
I-
you?
I'll end. I'll end off.
Okay.
So bye, y'all, and everybody in LA. Wednesday night, the fundraiser for Beverly Church Hogan and her husband Rick. They lost their house in the rains.
Oh my.
Really a drag. And they were with Farmers Insurance, and her guy, who had been her insurance agent for 20 years, kept telling her, "Yeah, you don't need mudslide insurance." Every year he would say that. She had no insurance. It was incredible. So anyway, we're having a fundraiser for her Wednesday at Catalina's, which is a nice club. And then Saturday, for those of you who are in LA, come to Kulak's Woodshed to see my Nonette. And for those of you who aren't, you can stream it. Okay. Bye. You're welcome.